The mysterious Dr. Voyan has fostered another examination where he compensates couples with $5 million, assuming they stay inside a flawless space for 50 days. Assuming that one of them leaves, the award drops to $1 million. There is no contact with the rest of the world and no diversion. Just each other's organization. Nonetheless, they can get treats by paying for them with part of the award cash. The present couple is Mike and Kate, who figure it will be income sans work. Mike thinks they've been exceptionally fortunate to track down this spot, and Kate sees it as the additional opportunity they merit. Anyway, she likewise brings up that perhaps they ought to part the cash to make things simpler. She will probably put away the cash, which Mike believes is extraordinarily exhausting. He views his future as celebrating and living it up without contemplating cash at any point down the road. Subsequent to hearing the man-made intelligence voice help them to remember the standards, they investigate the region and notice they weren't kidding when they referred to it as flawless. Everything is white, and the main items there are a bed and a seat. There's likewise a straightforward restroom, which rules say they can enter each in turn, a red button they can utilize if they have any desire to leave, a touch screen where they can demand treats, and a major clock over the leave entryway that counts down the time they have left in the trial. Their feasts are intended to cover their everyday wholesome prerequisites and are simply flavorless white shake that arrives in a white container. The room likewise accompanies programmed lights that change over the course of the day to declare morning, evening, night, and when sun sets, which is a sign they should take to hit the hay. The touch screen permits them to set up a morning timer, and keeping in mind that Mike intends to regard this as a getaway and rest late, Kate sets up an early caution so she can have some feeling of schedule. At the point when they head to sleep on their most memorable evening, Mike attempts to get going with Kate. However, she's stressed that they might be watched by the teacher. Since Mike demands, they wind up doing it unobtrusively under the covers. When morning comes, Kate goes to the washroom to take a gander at herself in the mirror and recount a couple of encouraging statements to keep her spirits up and her objectives new. After the two of them shower, they toss their garments into the restroom's clothing chute, and in return, they get extremely plain nightgown, in spite of the fact that essentially these have some tone. To keep themselves occupied, Kate attempts to estimate why Voyan is running this trial, so Mike educates her concerning the narrative he saw about this person's past examination that finished with a regular family in misfortune. No one knows why Voyan did this, they just realize he has lots of cash, and he likes utilizing it to place individuals in exceptional conditions since he's captivated by the human condition. Keeping themselves engaged turns into an issue sooner than they anticipate. Kate likes to ponder while Mike gazes at the clock at times. He additionally goes on philosophical digressions about different subjects, like the significance of white, which he dissects with all his specialty school information, or the course where they ought to clean their teeth. Kate generally reminds him not to gaze at the clock and to keep his brain on the award. Yet it's difficult to think emphatically when Mike couldn't in fact rest soundly. Kate keeps up her daily practice of confirmation words and making the bed. She additionally attempts to keep Mike's soul up. At the point when Kate ponders, Mike has a go at working out, primarily by running. Together, they play hand-applauding games, Marco Polo, or even dance. At the point when they remove their grimy nightgown, they're given another pair that appears to be identical. Half a month have passed when something else at long last occurs. Mike finds a bug that has sneaked inside the room. After child conversing with it, Mike attempts to take care of it, a portion of the feast shake. However, when he pours a few drops on the floor, the simulated intelligence voice advises them that food must be utilized for utilization by the contenders. Stressed over the bug not making do in here, Mike demands some approach to letting the little man out, promising he would rather not leave. Kate clarifies for him that the speaker through which the simulated intelligence voice comes out doesn't appear to be two-way. She's now taken a stab at making Mike chooses he will press the button to open the entryway. This starts a contention in light of the fact that Kate is certain pressing the button will cause them to lose, regardless of whether Mike really leave, and just puts his hand out for a dumb bug. Subsequent to putting the bug down, Mike tells Kate the bug is a living being and that she has no sympathy. So Kate blames him for being deigning in light of the fact that she isn't vegetarian like him. As the contention gets stronger, Kate at long last admits she thinks Mike is just veggie lover, since he needs to annoy his well-off father, who have Mike all that he really wanted, subsequently he never endured, and presently he needs to have aesthetic road craftsmanship cred. Then, at that point, Kate attempts to leave this discussion, yet she winds up stepping on the bug and Mike experiences difficulty accepting her. When she says it was a mishap and apologizes, Mike spends the remainder of his day scowling in a corner until he at last concludes he's had enough it doing nothing is simply not beneficial. Since every one of them can take 2 treats, Mike will request one. Regardless of whether takes out $100,000 off their award, Kate doesn't endorse. However, Mike needn't bother with her consent, and his treat turns out to be a solitary green-colored pencil. It's not a lot. Yet presently Mike can do his craft on the walls. Subsequent to watching him draw for some time, Kate requests that he draw her, and Mike acknowledges. In any case, he declines to do reasonable pictures since they're exhausting. He likes to adhere to his style, causing Kate not to need to display for him any longer. Mike draws until there's no more pastel left, irritating Kate when he leaves green stains all around the restroom and the towel on the floor. Afterward, Kate apologizes for having acted like a cunt and makes sense of this as more diligently than she suspected. However, essentially they just have 20 days left. Days keep on passing in weariness until one morning, Kate awakens to track down a firearm in the restroom. They're too terrified to even consider checking, assuming it's stacked, and its presence is tormenting. So they choose to conceal it under the bed on the grounds that the simulated intelligence denies them to put protests that aren't garments inside the clothing chute. In a little while, the couple is at long last compensated with interface time, which will play for the messages sent by their friends and family. Mike receives a message from his sister, who lets him know how she and their folks are doing. Yet she likewise thinks Mike isn't dating Kate any longer. Seeing his sister makes Mike exceptionally cheerful. However, Kate doesn't need her very own association and frenzies when the screen puts a video of her father, who is at long last off the roads and residing in a destitute haven. Since the video won't stop regardless of the amount she asks, Kate races to take cover behind the restroom entry and cry, and Mike approaches solace her. In the wake of resting by sticking frantically to her sweetheart, Kate doesn't get up when the caution declares the morning and stays in bed all day, since she's fallen into a discouraged state. At the point when Mike communicates his concerns, Kate lets him know she hadn't seen her dad in years and consistently deceived Mike about who he was on the grounds that she was embarrassed about her father and the manner in which he drank away the house, her school charges, and her possibilities growing up like an ordinary individual. With barely 14 days to go, Kate actually remains in bed, while Mike attempts to track down better approaches to engage himself, such as adjusting his drawings by smirching the colored pencil with his fingers, or perusing the pajama mark, and whatever number feelings as could reasonably be expected like those acting activities. He attempts to cause Kate to eat by poking some fun at the food, yet it's trivial. So he winds up joining her in bed and trusts he can comfort her. It actually doesn't work, and Mike some of the time chooses to rest on the floor just to feel something else. One morning, he attempts to persuade Kate to take a treat. Yet she won't lose that cash. Developing progressively disappointed, Mike specifies he doesn't know he can do this any longer, and that at last rouses Kate to get up. Before she cleans up, however, she advises Mike to require his subsequent treat, regardless of whether costs $250,000. Mike does so and is stunned to see the entryway open to permit a bare lady called Simone go into the room. She is clueless about the task. She's simply an entertainer getting compensated for a gig that expected marking heaps of NDAs, and keeping in mind that she was reserved for a month. Her representative said she's presumably remaining for 24 hours. Kate could do without her presence definitely, and makes Mike give her his shirt so Simone can conceal in some measure a little. Simone sees Mike's craft and commends it in any event, perceiving the impacts, which irritates Kate more. At the point when dusks, Mike offers to rest on the floor while the young ladies take the bed, and Simone offers to remain conscious while they rest. Kate is irritated by their indeterate habits and concludes they can all share the bed, as long as she dozes in the center. That evening, it's Kate the one to experience difficulty dozing. In the first part of the day, Kate doesn't find Simone on the bed and believes she's gone. However, she's in the washroom. Not having the option to take it any longer, Kate chooses to take a treat and gets a little box with 3 tomfoolery confections. Kate quickly takes one and offers one to Simone. However, Mike just acknowledges 1-2 after loads of delay. Them 3 start moving and thrashing around the room. They likewise share a couple of gathering kisses. Nonetheless, inevitably, Mike starts going through a terrible excursion, seeing blood all over the place and dreaming he's submerged, while seeing his more youthful sibling fall with him. The ladies take Mike back to the real world, yet he's actually terrifying and requesting to leave while referencing something about Sean and suffocating. Kate needs to drag him back to bed and solace him until he's sleeping. A short time later, Simone asks what Mike had been referring to, and Kate tells her Mike's younger sibling Sean suffocated in the family's pool, while Mike should mind, which causes him to feel regretful still right up till now. Mike had been high when it worked out, which adds to the injury, and makes sense of why he had been reluctant to acknowledge the sweets here. Simeon likewise asks how they met, and Kate recalls affectionately how on a stormy day, she had no umbrella, and Mike came to her, proposing to get every one of the raindrops so she wouldn't get wet. At the point when Mike at long last awakens, Simone shares that she lost her mom when she was a youngster, and both of them bond over melancholy and lost friends and family. Simone grasps Mike's hand to comfort him, and when Kate sees them, she goes nuts thinking Simone needs to take her sweetheart. Simone gets down on her demeanor, bringing up that Kate blows up on the grounds that she's really an unreliable individual. What begins a contention, Mike shouts at them to stop prior to leaving. In this way Kate attempts to apologize, letting it be known was presumably nothing that she saw, yet Simone stokes the fire by saying perhaps it wasn't. The next morning, Mike isn't feeling great. However, Kate is focused on different things. Simone is at long last gone, but at the same time there's a message from her on the wall on green pastel, saying thanks to Mike for a wild evening. Kate goes ballistic, not paying attention to Mike when he makes sense of he sat idle. And this resembles the firearm, something the room is doing to play with them. In her resentment, Kate pushes Mike to the floor, making him hurt his head and drain. Mike backs away from her, advising her that he's never undermined her in any event. When she moved to New York, he likewise quit seeing his supposed rich companions not to make her anxious, and didn't complete school to remain at home with her when she was discouraged. Yet all he receives consequently is envy. Crying, Kate keeps on saying sorry, however their discussion is interfered with when Mike starts feeling tipsy from the injury. He genuinely thinks he really wants a doctor, yet Kate presents to him a portion of the dinner shake, so he can place a few sugar in his framework and covers his injury with a towel, reminding Mike that the agreement said they don't have remittance for clinical mediation. Mike can't completely accept that what he's hearing, and he begins contemplating whether Kate truly minds. His injury ends up being little and it at last quits dying. Yet he is frightened of how far she would have gone, assuming it had been more awful. Maybe she would have allowed him to lose for cash hand over fist. Detesting how this spot has treated them and acknowledging cash won't fix how broken they really are, Mike chooses to leave, welcoming Kate to do likewise. Kate denies, however, calling attention to it's simple for him to talk like this, since he's constantly had cash, and she even recovers the firearm to undermine him into remaining. Notwithstanding, Mike disregards her and presses the button, at last leaving the room a couple of days before triumph. After bunches of laying around and going crazy in the shower, Kate sees the raindrop drawing on the wall, moving her to move toward the button as well, and think of her as choices with just 2 days left. Numerous months after the fact, a now single Mike is going for a run when he sees Kate emerging from a structure. They haven't seen each other since the room and choose to take a stroll to talk and get up to speed. However, when Mike inquires as to whether she left the room or won, she evades the inquiry. At any rate, however, she offers an expression of remorse for what occurred. As they leave, the structure is uncovered to be the destitute safe house, which has a plaque saying a mysterious gift permitted them to fabricate the new kitchen. In the meantime, in the faultless room, another couple shows up to take the test,